My name is Troelsgaard, and I'm CEO and also co-founder of SynergyXR. And together today with me, I have Carlos.
Thank you. I'm a senior XR engineer at Grundfos. Yes.
Yeah, and so I just the clickers here. Hold on. Let me see if we can take the next slide. No reaction. Maybe I should point it here. Point it there. If I say dring, would you change the slide then? Sure. Thanks. All right, no problem. Yeah, so I can just tell you a little bit about myself. I've been in the XR industry for over 15 years. Here we are. And yeah, so actually SynergyXR, I'm just going to start a little bit with a huge introduction. Why is it that we are here on stage today? We are the former team behind Unity Studios, which means we were actually founded by the founders of Unity Technologies back in 2008. Back then at Unity, there was only 14 people working there. So we've been in this game for a long time. We had a whole team. So in 2018, so 10 years after, we actually co-founded SynergyXR, where we started to develop a platform that made it easy for companies to actually utilize XR technologies. So that's like Ori just said on the main stage. He said XR is hard. We knew that as well. We've done projects for some of the largest organizations all over the world in B2B. And we learned from all of them, even though it's very different industries, they all said XR is hard and it was not scalable and they needed tools like we see in the CMS system. So there was also a reference from the early beginning of the internet. So they were invented like CMS systems like WordPress or today Wix.com for creating websites. The same need we actually saw within the XR industry. It needed to be super easy to utilize these technologies. So that's why we started to build SynergyXR back then. And we have a lot of these big clients with us today, and Grundfos is definitely one of the most mature run customers we have on the platform that's been in quite a journey. So just a short, very simplified explanation of the technology that we have today. So of course, like we just heard from Lenovo as well, it's an enterprise infrastructure based on Microsoft Azure. That's the cloud and the security level of it. And then we support augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality, and of course also PC, Mac, mobile phones as well on the platform, because AR and VR is not mainstream yet. It will become over the next 2 to 3 years. That's what I believe at least. Then you can upload like images, videos, PDF files, but also 3D models and exactly also 3D scans, which we're gonna listen to from Carlos a little later on how they use it. Within an organization, we have like in a CMS system, we have multiple use cases. So this can be within sales, marketing, service, technology, operations. It's very simplified again, but that's where we have many different use cases on the platform which our customers is using. And we actually found out that many of the companies that work with start in different areas. Some start in marketing because they're going to an expo and they want to bring VR because it's showcasing the like innovation and stuff like that. But others start with onboarding or training because they have like, facing massive like problems, especially within the manufacturing industry right now, because it's hard to retain workers and hard to get workers locally and stuff like that. So we have all these different kind of use cases that is popping up on our platform. which is quite interesting. The ones that we will dive deeper in today is something like 3D documentation, which will focus very much on 3D scanning and reality capture, but also utilizing those scans in both for sales, but also in onboarding and training as well. And content is king. Bill Gates said that back in 1996 concerning the internet. If we should see the true power of the internet, it will be through content. We're going to touch on that as well later on in this session. But I must highlight, onboarding and training is definitely the cases that is growing the largest and fastest right now within our platform. So what we also saw is that maybe some of the customers that we actually have is going to expose and maybe start with building like a virtual showroom and stuff like that. Then one of our customers is called McKean Energy. They actually started like that, but then they realized that they can use those virtual showrooms for actually onboarding new employees in a smarter and more global way, because they already invested the time in building the showrooms and products they already had in there. So it's just different messaging that they actually could utilize. So they started to use the same rooms, the same content. They just changed the messaging easily in the platform for onboarding as well. And then, of course, we support like training, stuff like that. So, and we're building tools so it can be easily created. Before, in like a training application, like 2-3 years ago, we've done a whole training platform for Grundfos as well, like a bespoke one. And a training application could easily take like 4 to 6 months time and cost a lot of money, maybe 100,000. Today, we can create those in like a week, 2 weeks time. And later on, within the next year, we will release tools so actually Grundfos can build the trainings themselves on the platform with low-code tools. So I will hand over the microphone to Carlos, and he can dive deeper into some of the use cases that they are using SynergyXR in today, but also reality capture and 3D scanning.
Yes. Thank you, Miss. So my name is Carlos, and I work at Grundfos. We're one of the largest, if not the largest, pump manufacturer in the world, also based in Denmark. Thank you. I just want to go through a couple of examples of where we're using SynergyXR in such a large, you could say, traditional engineering company like ours, since we were funded back in 1945. And I'll start a little bit far away from SynergyXR, but I'll make my way around to it, I promise. But I want to start with reality capture, because that's something that we found really great traction, especially in the last year. And when I talk reality capture, I mean the mobile solutions, so LiDAR scanning, for example, from an iPhone Pro, or photogrammetry from videos or images. There are probably booths out there that can boast really accurate scans with millimeter accuracy, but they also have significantly larger scanners and more expensive. And that's not what we're chasing right now. Now we're chasing the scalability of potentially anyone being able to do this with their mobile device. So as an example, this is a scan done by a sales engineer, so not an XR expert at all, just walking around with their iPhone Pro, and then they created sort of the as-is scenario of this pump installation. And then we helped out from the back office to do this animation of how the step-by-step installation would look like. So first removing 2 old pumps, installing a new kiosk, as they call it, with 4 new pumps. And then after connecting the intake and the discharge, then you can finally get rid of the 2 remaining old pumps. So showing this to a customer in a step-by-step process really greatly, how long is this? 30 seconds. Trying to explain this in images, in PDFs, in long email threads, it just doesn't work. And it just greatly speeds up the communication and makes it so much more efficient. So initially, this was just to communicate better to the customer and show a solution, measure what is the footprint change going to be. It's a LiDAR scan, so you can measure what space I'm going to be left with, how can I fit the pipes and so on. But we've actually found out that it works really well for the customers afterwards to have their internal sort of CapEx approvals when we provide them with this scan. So someone, when they have to convince maybe a CFO who might be back in headquarters, who is rarely on site, then having this content also really, really helps. But it doesn't necessarily have to be an animation. It could also be just a couple of static images or renders like you see here. So these two from the UK and from the Netherlands, they're from different applications, water utility or industrial, but they're the same concept. So a LiDAR scan of a pump room, of the environment, combined together with a CAD model of our pumps. And since we're a traditional engineering company, we're drowning in these CAD models because we've used them for years, right? So just a simple step file put together. And then showing the customer much more accurately what we want to offer. Especially something very relevant where they're not the ones asking for a project, but when we're actually proposing like, hey, this is a much more energy efficient solution to your current setup, even though you haven't asked for it, this is how it would look like and it would save you X amount, for example. But sometimes we don't know exactly what we want to install and how we want to do it. And that's where actually the SynergyXR platform comes really in hand, because then we can sort of load these scans up in VR. So this is in the platform in SynergyXR, where we have two colleagues, well, myself and a sales engineer. We're both in VR, so he can draw in 3D. He can actually walk around the scan and behind the pump and draw what I think he's trying to draw where a new pump will go or a machine tank pump will go, and then drawing the pipes and so on. And it could be a conversation between two sales engineers or their manager or an application, a knowledge expert. It could also be with a customer to explain to them what they want to or what they're going to receive from this project. It could also be, and it could be, and I think Mas, you mentioned this, that it was cross-platform. So here we have two colleagues in VR, but we're actually joining and we're seeing this from the mobile version of the app. That's where there are two toggles at the left and right. So we could be joining from a phone. You can join from the PC, from the Mac, from the iPad, or from VR, like the two people. So now he just drew around, so he can actually walk behind the pump and draw where the pipe has to go. We can save this. There's, of course, audio, so we can have the conversation as we go, record this, and then send it to someone who maybe could not go on site or was not able to join the session, and then use all the tools like the pointers and so on. So that is one very specific case where we've had really good traction within the sales organization. And initially, I would say a year ago, we were pitching this to the sales colleagues and saying, hey, if you get this new iPhone that is Pro, so you can scan and do LiDAR scans, you'll be able to generate these 3D models. First of all, they were like, oh yeah, cool, we'll give it a shot, let's see how it goes. And now we're not doing that anymore. It's them who are coming back to us with the 3D scans because they've seen the value and they don't need to be convinced anymore. But they're saying, hey, last week I was at this customer and I took this 3D scan. Can you help me come up with an animation, or can you help me create something for the customer? So really, really excited to talk about this. And now it's just about scale and, like Johannes mentioned as well, infrastructure and how do we do this on a much, much larger scale.
I think it's important to mention that it only takes like 5 minutes.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
So 3 minutes of scanning and then basically upload it, and then it just works out of bugs.
You don't have to be an expert. We tell them it's like taking a video, you learn by doing, and when you do the first scan, maybe you forget that if this is a pump and I'm trying to scan it, oh, I forgot to go all the way around it because I didn't think that it cannot know what is behind the pump. But the second or third scan you do, you will remember to do that, and it's really, you don't need technical knowledge. I'm sure many of you have done LiDAR scans with the phone as well. It is pretty straightforward. So that's one clear example where we've had a lot of traction, and I'm going to make a drastic jump into another use case of SynergyXR for Grundfos, which is related to recruitment. It's also linked a bit to how I started my journey, what was that, 4 years ago in the company. Because we have this thing called the Global Graduate Program, which is a talent development program. It's also common in other large companies where you get to rotate and try different departments. So in Grundfos, it's a 2-year program where you go in 4 different departments, and one of them is usually abroad. So It's a very attractive program. Therefore, we have a lot of candidates every year, and thus the recruitment process is also quite extensive. So you see all the different stages with your typical application, video interview, and then online tests, whatnot. And then the last thing is usually the assessment center, which is where we fly in when we have twice as many graduates as we want to, or candidates as we want to hire. We fly them into Denmark, and then we sort of have a 2-3 day workshop, team collaborating recruitment stage. And so I started this recruitment process, or being a part of it, in 2020. And as you recall, it was not a great year to fly in people from all over the world to a specific location. So in 2020, we had to improvise, and then Grundfos carried out this assessment center in VR using, again, the SynergyXR platform. I was quite impressed of how agile they could work with this, because within less than a month's notice, from waiting to see if we were able to go to the assessment center, we were just sent out some Quest Goes, I believe, back in 2020, in the mail, and then had the assessment center in VR. And these are some of the images from over the years. So you can see I'm there at the top right-hand corner with the old Quest Go. But since then, that works so well that we haven't gone back to a physical assessment center in the 4 years since, or 4 recruitment processes since. So now we have 2 new, also onboarded graduates using the Quest 2. And in this VR spaces, then we could have both the recruiters join and the candidates, and then they would have some sort of escape room kind of tasks where they could not just learn about the company and being in an actual water utility installation, for example, but also communicate with themselves and go treasure hunting and sort of these tasks that would also be nice to do in person, but work just as well in VR. So lastly, I want to just wrap up with one of the quotes from one of the graduates that went through this recruitment process. And funnily enough, it actually triggers a lot of curiosity in their mind to, since they have the flexibility to go around different departments, try out what we're doing exactly with VR and XR in Grundfos, even though that's not something that they might have in their mind when they were starting the program. And surprise, surprise, that's also how I came to be into this industry. Just curiosity was sparked, and then I loved it so much that I stayed. I think you had some notes to wrap up.
Yeah, so I remember that one of your colleagues from HR presented this case as well, like maybe a year ago. And one of the people from the audience asked, Birgitte was her name, they asked, all right, but aren't you afraid that the people that you send out the headsets to for the graduates here don't know how to use the VR headsets? And she was like a woman in the mid-50s, and she said like, well, it took me, I never tried VR before, and it took me like 15 minutes, and then I was in there and I was adding 3D objects and moving things around. And then she said, if they are not able to do that, then they don't have a spot at Grundfos at all. So that was like the first test. It was like,
exactly,
really? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's super easy. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a sort of recruitment process in itself, just being up and running with one of these devices, because at the end we're trying to be, even though we're a pump company, we're still trying to be innovative and differentiate ourselves in whichever way we can. So that was definitely very relevant for the graduates.
One thing is that you guys, you saw this under COVID-19, but what we've seen, we also work like with Siemens Gamesa and Vattenfall, like the big energy companies as well. And there was a guy within the training department in Siemens Gamesa that told me they will no longer fly in people for training. They will not get physical nacelles for doing training anymore. It will all be done virtually because the nacelles are so big and it's not good for the environment, basically flying people all over when you have the technology to actually solve the problems right away within minutes instead.
That's also something we've heard from the sales organization at Grundfos, that, for example, these the 3D scans and the animations that you showed, apart from showing those to the customer, they're really, really useful when onboarding new colleagues, and you want to show them, well, this is how supposed perfect pump installation should look like, and this is what you need to learn how to do. And yes, you could take a day out to a customer and ask them if they can visit their sort of brand new installation, but that implies, driving, sustainability, etc., etc. So by doing this, they've also said that it's really, really helpful for them to onboard new colleagues in a matter of no time and remotely as well.
Yeah, so you can basically visit factories in China and customer installations in Brazil and your new factory in Houston, Texas as well, within hours instead of months before they will actually go there and plan this. And it costs a lot of money, it takes a lot of time. You can basically do that within hours with this technology as well. So, yeah, add us on LinkedIn. Also, we would be happy to do like a product demo if anyone wants that as well. Yeah, and what else? We're just next to us here. Of course, we hope there is some questions as well. Feel free to ask.
You still have like 3 minutes if you want to continue, but if anyone has some questions, please take advantage of this fantastic moment and go ahead. It's your opportunity. Okay, cool.
Hi, thanks. Very interesting talk. I wanted to ask about LiDAR scanners. You use the iPhone, but do you support high-end LiDAR scanners like Faro scanners, or as though can you use them if you want to?
Does this one work if I talk here, maybe? We have used them in the past, but the problem with those is the terabytes of data that we generate, and being able to visualize that and share that seamlessly, that is a big challenge, because it's not scalable right now, and there are some companies out there who are tackling this issue of how do we get these large files and sort of...
You can support point cloud data, can you, from point clouds?
Yes, we could sort of make some conversions in between, and yes. But what we're not chasing is that the sales colleague has to be trained in using a Faro scanner and going around with a suitcase, and because then it's more likely that they'll say...
Yeah, it's just for those people who want the really accurate scans of their environments.
Yeah, exactly. It depends on the use case.
Yeah,
very much. So how important like the little details are down to like millimeter. But here it's very much about speed. So you have the device in your pocket. The sales team, it's important that they don't have like expensive equipment and equipment that takes time to actually go there, that they can just do like a scan in 5 minutes time when they are at the customer site and really document that. You can, of course, add pictures and 3D images, 360 images, and also videos into the scans and save that in there with the notes, where you can get all the way down to nameplates on the products and stuff like that, and save that into the same space.
Yeah. Just one other question. Do you support other scanning platforms like Matterport? Matterport do the house model.
Yeah, so actually in the Unity Studios team, we worked for Matterport for over 2 years' time with our team back in Denmark and helped them build the technology. So we started out, 2015 with that. So with the Matterport, you have like a really, really nice scan when you are in that spot, right? Like 360 images. Once you move out of that spot, you'll get like the same experience like you have with a 3D scan, a LiDAR scan done with Scaniverse or something like that. But it's possible to get those scans in as well. We support Luma AI as well, Polycam, Scaniverse, directly from your mobile phone. You can throw it in there within minutes. It just works.
Thank you very much.
Any more questions? Yeah, one in the back.
Okay, I'm going to go with her and then...
Hello, it's Lydia from Meta. Good to see you're using our devices. So just a quick question, I guess, for people that may be new to this journey. From your experience, what would be your kind of top tips, maybe for both of you? For companies that are starting out, what would your advice be?
Get sponsorship from the... No, but the for example, the pilot project in the UK where we had 10 sales colleagues go out and use this in their daily sales process was only possible because we convinced someone in top management to do this. And then they were like, okay, we'll enable that team of 10 people that it was with 13 pros. Of course, the team was very happy to get new phones, but then we just also asked in return their commitment to use those devices to generate content. And we had to follow up and say, hey, first of all, we had to push them and say, please generate these scans and you'll see how good they work. And now they're just coming at us with the 3D models. And it does help as well that it's not a scattered team, that we didn't try this on a global scale and say, well, we have one expert and sales colleague in the UK and one in the US and one in Australia, whatnot. But that they were actually close together and they could learn from each other, even without having us to support them on a daily basis. That really helped.
Yeah, and I also think like go for the smaller use cases, like something like onboarding that is so simple but creates so much value out there super fast, and it's like at scale because there are so many people, and it's obviously for global corporations, of course, but this makes sense where you have people from around the world. But it's so easy to build those onboarding rooms with the content you already have, and actually then get started there as well. And as well as Carlos says, like with 3D scanning, it's so easy to get stuff in there and prove a business case. That's, I think, and then start with one to three use cases you wanna highlight, and of course make sure that there is a lot of value in those use cases. And it's, yeah.
Thank you.
So we have a couple of minutes for one more question. So there we go.
Hi, Thomas. How much of what you've shown, considering all those logos, is custom development or bespoke for a certain company, and how much is just the platform itself?
Well, most of it, I think there was a older customer from Bespoke, also Grundfos. We were collaborating before the platform, but actually everything is like almost in the platform now. The new customers that we get today is only on platform. Everything is happening on the platform because it gives you a totally different offset from it. We have like a online 3 hours onboarding, and then we have educated a super team that can create stuff themselves.
So if there are any kind of requirements from a customer, you try to directly integrate that into the platform?
Yeah, of course. So we have like a mile-long roadmap of customers that report stuff that they would like to have in there. And of course, we're prioritizing this, but we come out with new stuff every third month. We have a release. Our release here we actually made a release in September where we have LMS integration. We have IoT, live IoT data integration. We also did like a release. We will come out with a release here in start of November where we will support HTC headsets. And in 1.5 months, we'll make a new release where we also support Pico headsets. Of course, we support all Meta headsets today. Yeah, and like I said, like iPhones, iPad, we just released on Mac as well. So we found out that it's super important that we are on the classic devices that people are safe with, because if a sales engineer that is out in the field, he needs the devices that he already have in his pocket. And if they don't have the VR headsets yet, so it's easy for them to actually join from some regular devices like Mac and PC as well.
Okay, so such a deep journey into the operational advantage for XR. So thank you very much, Carlos and Mats, for sharing your collaboration. And you have been sharing a lot of instrumental tools that can be useful for anyone here. So thank you very much.
Thank you.